But the thing is quite often people, lay the blame on a particular period of life, or what's happening in the world economically, and then that means that they stop looking for what they can do to change it. So the GFC might have had an effect, but I also know that there were a lot of businesses that did really well during that period.
Do you want to earn more? Work less and enjoy what you do each day. It's no secret, it can be done. This podcast with Dr. T will not only educate and inspire you, it will also teach you how to do more and be more with the time you already have. It will be like a shot of adrenaline straight into the heart of your business. Here is your host, Tyson Franklin.
Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of It's No Secret with Dr. T. Now, with me today is a legendary lady by the name of Deb Johnstone, and she has a company called Transformational Pathways Australia. She is a mindset and NLP coach, and I'm proud to say she is actually my mindset coach, and I wouldn't be as sane as I am if it wasn't for Deb Johnstone. So, Deb, welcome to It's No Secret with Dr. T. How you doing?
Hi, Tyson. It's such a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the lovely introduction.
Oh, it's a truthful introduction, though. Even though, I've had business coaches over the years, and I still have people that I talk with on a regular basis when it comes to business, but your mindset is so important, and I think a lot of people neglect, or I think a lot of people don't realize that it's good to actually have a mindset coach, someone that helps you, the way I put it, helps me keep my head screwed on properly.
Yeah, I love the way you put that. Absolutely. Mindset is everything. And if you haven't got your head screwed on properly, then it becomes difficult to achieve anything near what you want to achieve.
So if somebody was listening to this now and they go, okay, what is a mindset coach? What does a mindset coach do different to a normal business coach?
Okay, so I actually coach people a lot in business. But what I work with them from is purely from the mindset aspect of it. So I help them with their thinking, their focus, with their belief system, their values system, and these things can all be really empowering. You know, your values, your beliefs, your attitude, the way you focus, the language that you use, they can all work in a really empowering way to help you achieve what you want. They can also have the reverse effect. So if they are not resourceful to what you want to achieve, and the strategies that you're using are not resourceful, then they can actually hold you back and create resistance to what you want to achieve. And that's not to say that you won't achieve it. It just means that it will be really hard work.
Okay, can you give an example?
Give you an example. So let me have a think of, okay. So I've worked with a few different people, and I have a beautiful client who had been holding back on a strategy that she wanted to implement in her business. And she'd been actually holding back on this strategy for 5 years. She'd been procrastinating because of the way she was perceiving it. She knew it was a great idea. She knew it would work, but she was perceiving it in a way that was holding her back. So she was focusing on maybe she was coming from a place of fear of what she might lose. So she was focusing on the fact that people might not receive it very well in her community. It might affect relationships that she already had with people, and it might affect her client base at that time. When she started to focus on the benefits and what it was that she wanted to achieve, and where the intention was actually coming from, how it's helped serve her values and her beliefs and her purpose of what she wanted to give back to the world, then she was able to implement that action, and it actually ended up increasing her business twofold.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So I know from a personal point of view, when I started working with you myself, and I was saying that, work is stressing me out. I want to cut back. Yeah, in fact, I wanted to just cut back on work completely and have somebody else work in my podiatry business. And you said, well, why don't you just stop? Why don't you? I said, I just need someone that can just work part-time. And you said, well, why don't you find someone that there's nobody around. And you said, well, is there nobody around? And I went, well, actually, I got an email from someone the other day who just wants to work part-time. So I contacted that person. They came in, and that was my first stepping stone towards removing myself from the business and purely put myself behind the scenes. And from that point onwards, my business just took an upward trajectory. But it was all based on taking that initial step. I was scared. I was actually scared to actually stop seeing patients all the time and just working on my business.
Yeah, and that's a really good example. And I love your story, Tyson, and it's a story I've shared a couple of times because it is so inspirational. And language there was a really important part of it. So what you said there was, well, there's no one that wants to work part-time. Yeah, there's no one that wants to work part-time. So that's a generalization. It is a general belief that it's and it's not true. You know, when we actually challenge those kind of beliefs, they're not true. Okay, there may not be many people around that want to work part-time, but that doesn't mean to say there's no one. So that's a really good example. And when you actually started to explore that, you'd actually received an email that day.
I know.
But your unconscious mind had deleted that information because of that belief.
Well, I'd actually received it a couple of days beforehand, and I'd sort of ignored it because nobody wants to work part-time. But this person was saying, I'm looking for part-time work. But you've helped me do this on numerous occasions. But I've heard other people that say, oh, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. And you go, well, is it nobody? Or is it only a selective few people will want to hear what you have to say? So people have to get their message out.
Yeah, absolutely. And the people that don't want to hear what you have to say, they're probably not your ideal client. You know, you're in business, your ideal client is going to respond to what you have to say. The people that don't want to hear it are the people that are not the people you want to work with.
Okay, so do you think like fear holds people back from making decisions because they're scared what people will think, but the people who are going to think poorly are not the people they want to work with in the first place?
Yeah, possibly not. Yeah.
What else holds people back when you're talking with a lot of your clients, and don't have to give any names other than my own? What's a common thing that you see when you're coaching business people with their mindset?
They're the behavior patterns. So the behavior patterns are procrastination. The behavior patterns can be the shiny thing syndrome.
Had them.
Yeah, you've had them.
Okay, I have them. I'm sounding like it's gone. No, I still suffer from those two things.
The thing is that the difference is you've got awareness around it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good word what you said then, awareness. Like I suffered from shiny object syndrome and procrastination, but making myself aware that that's happening, I end up getting more done, and I do stay more focused than I used to.
Yes, that's right. And that's the key, the awareness, because, that's part of my behavior style as well. I've got the shiny thing syndrome. I used to wear a badge of honor of being the best multitasker. And we all know now that multitasking doesn't create productivity. It actually is one of the enemies to productivity. But I used to think that I got so much done because I was this great multitasker. And it's actually, I have built awareness around this and learned to turn it around so that I can now become absolutely laser focused. But it is a mindset. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of seeing things and a way of and changing your strategies so they work.
Okay, so if somebody was looking for a mindset coach, they can easily get hold of you. They can. What's your website?
My website is my name. So it's Deb Johnstone, DebJohnstone.com.au. I had to think how to spell it then.
Okay, but they can also look up Transformational Pathways Australia?
Yes, and it'll come up for that as well.
Oh, cool. And the thing I like about the whole online world these days, like Deb is based in Cairns, and even though I'm based in Cairns, which makes it very easy, but most of the time now when we do our coaching sessions, we do it over Zoom. Yeah, we don't actually have to be in the. We figured it out that we didn't have to be in the same room. It made it more convenient. So I think anybody listening to this, if you're looking for a mindset coach, go and hunt Deb down and have a chat to her, even if it's just a quick 15-minute chat, just to see is this something that you could basically benefit from? Because I know that I have big time. I know my wife has, and I know a lot of other people that have used Deb's services, and they are all improving. So, Deb, today I wanted to talk about, there was a subject we spoke about a couple of weeks ago that sort of came up, and this is what I want to focus on today, and it was called, and I wrote it down just so I didn't bugger it up, behavioural flexibility. What is that?
Behavioural flexibility. Behavioural flexibility is one of the success principles of NLP. So it's not mine. I didn't make it up.
Okay, so when you say NLP, if somebody's never heard that term before, can you just explain what NLP is?
NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. So it is a study of how we communicate with ourselves and our external world. So neuro is obviously the way we process information, neurologically, how we process that information. The linguistics is how we communicate that information to ourselves, the language that we use, the perceptions that we create. And the programming is the programs and the patterns that we run because of that.
Okay, so it's not voodoo.
It's not voodoo.
It's not voodoo. Okay,
no, it's quite scientific.
I know a few people that are involved in NLP, and that's a common misconception that it must be that it's that voodoo mind stuff. Yeah. It's mind control, brainwashing, but it's nothing to do with that at all. So behavioural flexibility is part of NLP, or NLP is part of behavioural flexibility.
And behavioural flexibility is one of the principles of NLP.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the principles. Standing alone, just to stand on its own as behavioural flexibility, is not as empowering as when you look at what it is part of. So for behavioural flexibility to really work incredibly well, it's important to first of all start from the top. So the behavioural flexibility is one of the 5 success principles of NLP. They're to know your outcome, to take action, to have sensory acuity, to have behavioural flexibility, and to develop a physiology and psychology of excellence. Now, anything that I do, I go back to these success principles. Anything that I do. And anything that my clients do, whenever I coach any of my clients, we're working on these success principles. So it's important to start, first of all, with knowing what your outcome is. Behavioural flexibility is not going to work that well if you don't know what your outcome is.
Is the outcome, are you talking about what your goal is or what your why is? Or that's the outcome? Yeah,
the goal, your why, what it is that you want to achieve. What it is that you want to have that you don't have now. So it's really looking at what the outcome is that you want. So to give you an example, when you say you create a workshop, this is actually an example from my past. So you create a workshop and you decide what the outcome is for that workshop. So it might be to empower. In my situation, it would be to create ripples of change and to empower the people that are attending. The other outcomes might be that you want so many people in the room, whether you want 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, how many it is.
So outcomes don't have to be these big life-changing moments. An outcome can just be, I'm running this event, and the outcome I want for this event is X number of people, bums on seats.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. I don't do anything without knowing what my outcome is anymore.
Okay, that makes sense. And like you said, it's finding out what you can have that you don't already have.
Yes, that's it.
That's an easy way of looking at it.
Yeah. What is it you don't have now that you want to have after you've done this thing? Or what is it you don't have now that you want to create? And it might be an outcome for you, but it might be an outcome that you want for someone else, but it's also giving you something back. So it's still giving you an outcome to do whatever it is.
So what comes after the outcome?
You need to be taking some form of action. There's no point in looking at how you can be more flexible if you're not already taking action, because if you're not already taking action and you're starting to look at how you could be more flexible, that you could be sitting on the fence for a long time. It's a great way to procrastinate.
Okay, so is any action better than no action at all? So if somebody's doing the wrong actions, is it still better to be doing the wrong actions than nothing? And
Yes.
at least you're still moving, even if you're moving in the wrong direction, you can still sort of re-guide, you can refocus it the right way.
Yes, it's important to take a step. If you get really clear on your outcome, then it becomes easier to see what the best actions are going to be. But a lot of people resist taking action because they're afraid that they might make the wrong decision or they might take the wrong action. But there is no wrong action. There is no wrong decision, because whatever you do, it's going to give you a learning. It's going to help you see what it is that you need to learn to take the next action.
Okay, so if somebody's about to take action, should they ask themselves a question like, what I'm about to do now, is this taking me one step closer to my outcome, or is it actually taking me one step further away from the outcome? And their common sense maybe can sort of sort that out if they're taking the right step or not?
Yes, perfect. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah. I asked a perfect question. That's good for a change.
Perfect question. That's exactly yeah.
So they need the outcome. They have to take some form of action. What's the next step after that?
So the next step after that is the next principle is to have sensory acuity, and that sounds like a fancy word. So we'll put it into layman's terms: sensory awareness.
Okay.
Yeah. So you need to have sensory awareness, and that is awareness of whether what you're doing is working or not. Because, a lot of times people are given strategies. They're told to do this or to do that or to do something else. And they start doing the strategies because they're told they work.
Okay.
And so they just keep their head down and their bum up and don't actually take a step back out of the situation to see, is what I'm doing actually working?
How do they know? How do they know if it's working or if it's not working? Is there something that they can tick a box, or is there something that they know they're heading in the right direction, or they may not be?
The results. Yeah. What results am I getting? So, and I know I listened to Sam Harrop's interview the other day, and he talks about measuring.
Yeah.
I know he talked about measuring in his interview, and this is part of it. You measure your results of what you're doing.
And if people are wondering who Sam Harrop is, he was talking on episode 30 about getting stuff done. So you can go back and have a listen to that if you want to. Then you'll know what Deb's talking about.
Yeah, that was a great interview. It's really about measuring your results. Are these the results that I want? If they're not, how do I need to just tweak it? It may not be dumping the whole strategy. It may just be that you just need to tweak it just slightly. So I'll give you an example. I'll give you that workshop example again, because this is a real life example. It was the first workshop that I ever ran. And I hosted it with a friend of mine, and our outcome was that, we wanted to make a difference. We wanted to be able to give. We also wanted to increase our profile so people knew who we were. That was another outcome. And another outcome was that we wanted 50 people in the room.
Yeah.
Now we got to I think it was something like 5 weeks out, 6 weeks out from the workshop, and we had 5 registrations, and it was just before Christmas.
Oh, damn close.
We're not going to get there. Yeah, that this isn't working. Whatever we're doing isn't working. So it was about looking at what it is that we needed to tweak. We didn't dump the whole event. That wasn't on the agenda at all. What we did was we changed the date. We made a couple of tweaks with our marketing. We approached the media. There were a few different things that we did to get the word out there. But the thing was, we didn't dump the strategy.
Is that the problem people make sometimes, where with their sensory awareness, they're looking, I'm not getting the results I want. So they go, this mustn't work. So they just dump everything. Yeah. And then they go off on another whole new outcome, instead of thinking, okay, I just need to, maybe if I change this, if I change that, small changes, and see what effect that has on the overall scheme of things, become sensory aware if it's working or not. And if it is, then, okay, we're on the right track. If it's not working, make other changes. Is there a certain point where you're thinking, I'm flogging a dead horse here, that I've got to stop?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's about looking at the results. The thing is, when you've been doing those things, when you've been actioning that strategy for long enough, your unconscious mind starts to become aware of other possibilities and opportunities that can get you to where you want to be. Because the way you see your world and the results that you get is largely based on your behaviors and the actions you're taking.
Yeah.
Your behaviors and the actions you're taking are largely based on your emotions, which is related to the way you perceive your world. The way you perceive your world is directly related to past and present experience. So the only way to get different results is to create new experiences. And that's why it's so important to take the actions. Because when you're taking the action, whether it's working or not, you start to dilute, distort, and generalize information differently so that you become aware of other opportunities that around you, other strategies that you can use that you weren't aware of before. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, but if people say, I've tried that before and it doesn't work, and I tried it again and it doesn't work, is it because they're not changing the strategy? They're constantly they're repeating what didn't work the first time, and then they're wondering why it's not working. So they're not challenging themselves to new experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's about that challenging to new experiences. And one word I want to pick up there is the word try. And again, this comes down to language, and this again is part of behavioral flexibility. So it might be about changing your language. So the word try, if you try something, you get trying results. So quite often when people say to me, oh, I've tried that, they haven't actually done it. And it's really about saying, well, actually, what might happen if I put my head down and really laser focus on doing this instead of trying it?
So, okay, so we've got outcome. That's the first thing we've got to do. Then we've got to take some action. And then we've got to have the sensory, I like awareness better than acuity.
Yeah.
It sounds easier. What's next?
So that's the behavioral flexibility part. And that can be changing anything from the strategies you're using, the actions you're taking, the conversations you're having with people, changing your belief around something, changing the way you fulfill your values, or becoming aware of your values. It could be changing your language, just like little tweaks like the word try, or no one wants to do this, or business in Cairns is slow at the moment. All has an impact. Your attitude to something, your thinking, what it is you're focusing on. We had some challenges with equipment before we started this interview, didn't we, Tyson? This is
only mild ones. Yes. No, we had lots of problems. We had lots of problems with everything. Everything was going wrong when we were trying to do this recording. And I said to you, thankfully, we're friends and you understand that stuff happens. But like I said to you when I was doing it, I'd had other people on the show and we'd had a few technical glitches, and most people just accept. They know that that's a possibility that it's going to happen. Yeah. And even though I feel a little bit stressed because I'm thinking, hang on, I'm supposed to have this all sorted out, sometimes computers just play up.
Exactly.
But we worked it out.
We worked it out. And when you think about how it was worked out, it was, when you think about your attitude, where you were focusing, you weren't focusing on the problem, you were looking for the solution.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between that.
And I went through everything step by step too. I logically went, okay, this is working. I've got that right. This is set up properly. Cables are in. Like you said to me, have you got your headphones on? So we went through step by step on what was happening. And then all of a sudden there was this one little button that for some reason had changed itself, changed it back, and all of a sudden it started working.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one example. And the thing is that we stayed focused. We stayed focusing on looking for the solution. We didn't just give up. And a lot of people just give up.
Yeah.
When it's not working, they just give up. Dieting is a prime example of this, dieting and exercise. And I think about, people go on diets and they lose a fair bit of weight to start with. And then they reach the plateau stage. And quite often at that stage, a lot of people give up. They think, oh, that's not working. Oh, and they have one day where they eat something they're not meant to eat. They have a bit of sugar. They get back on the sugar wagon, and the diet's out of the window.
Yeah.
Now, if it could just be that they've just got to make slight adjustments. Eating different types of food at different times of the day, planning your meals differently, exercising at different times of the day can just get you off that, give you the shove off that plateau to start gaining momentum again. For me, anyone that knows me knows that I don't need to diet. What I do notice though is how my metabolism can get a bit sluggish. And I know that if I change the timing of my meals, it changes my metabolism. It's quite incredible. So
Okay.
I might eat my cooked meal at lunchtime and have a small light meal in the evening.
Okay, so when we were talking, when we started the conversation, not right at the beginning, and I said we wanted to talk about behavioural flexibility. So behavioural flexibility is one step in a number of steps.
Yeah, it's one step in a number of steps, and it's important that it's done in that order, because to start changing things without actually utilizing your sensory awareness.
Yeah.
The podcast, the issues we had with the computer before is an exact example of that. We went through the steps, but if we hadn't have had that awareness of all the different things that it could be, we have no idea what to change.
Okay, and when you were talking about your eating, when you were aware that you were feeling a bit sluggish or you weren't feeling at your best, you went, okay, I'm going to mix up when I'm eating just to get my body sort of thinking a little bit more, for your body to actually be a little bit more aware. I remember my parents used to run a swimming pool in Brisbane, and there was a guy that used to turn up and do about 100 laps of the pool every single morning. This guy was huge. He was a really big, overweight sort of guy. And I used to go, how can he do 100 laps and maintain that physique? But what happened is, and it's with any sort of activity or sport, once you start getting better at it and your body starts becoming more efficient, it has less effect. So he would have been better, and he was there each morning to try and lose weight. So he probably would have been better to swim a lap, actually get out and jog down to the other end of the pool, and then swim another lap just to sort of stir things up a little bit more.
It's so true, especially with the body, and body reaching plateau like that. It confuse it. You need to shake it up and confuse it a little bit, because the results that you have today in any aspect of your life, whether it's your relationship, your health and weight, or your finances, or results you've got in your business, they're only a reflection of what you've done up until this point. So to actually create a different result, you need to keep changing things. So it's a constant, never-ending journey of change.
So change is almost like making yourself a little bit uncomfortable on a regular basis until uncomfortable becomes the new comfortable.
Absolutely. And the more often you do that, the faster you're going to experience change.
Okay.
So it's really about learning how to do it regularly. And you know what? We say practice makes perfect, right?
Yeah.
So practice at stepping out of your comfort zone and doing different things and things that feel uncomfortable. The more you practice it, the easier it gets to do.
Okay, because one of the podcasts I actually like listening to is called Uncomfortable is Okay with Chris Desmond. And he has a lot of people on his show talking about uncomfortable situations that they've been in, but how once they come through that at the other end, they are a better person by going through those uncomfortable moments. And they were, so some people had some amazing challenges. So you're saying it's the same thing. We've got to just keep challenging ourselves and make ourselves a little bit uncomfortable.
Absolutely. And the more uncomfortable it feels, the bigger the result you're going to see from it.
So what comes after behavioral flexibility?
The number 5 is to have the physiology and the psychology of excellence. So that is all about how you think, what you do with your body. So your physiology is what you're doing with your body. It's your chemistry in your body language. Psychology is the way you're thinking and feeling, and they both affect each other.
Okay.
So what you do with your body affects your psychology, and what you do with your psychology, the way you think, affects your body as well. And you can notice that with someone's body language. I know sometimes when I go out in my morning walk, I have a habit of saying morning to everyone, big smile, and I say morning to everyone. And I notice that some people, and I make an extra special effort to actually smile at these people. I notice some people are looking down at the ground, they're looking down at the ground, and they're walking, but their walking is slow. You can see their mind is elsewhere. And that is a prime example of someone's psychology affecting their physiology.
Okay, so is that when I've been at events where they've said, okay, everybody look down at the ground and try and put a smile on your face. And it's almost impossible to do. Yeah, and then it said, okay, now look up in the air and try and be grumpy. And it's almost hard to do. So your body positioning has a lot to do with your mental health as well.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. So you can impact your mental health greatly by changing what you're doing with your body. That's why exercise is such a great idea. Exercise, it releases all those endorphins and those hormones and those chemicals in the body, the feel-good stuff like serotonin, that can actually change your psychology. And you can even do that just by changing your posture and whether you're smiling or not.
I know, because I go walking a fair bit, I must admit you'll see people that walk towards you, and there's a couple in general that my goal is to try and make them smile every time I go past them, and there's a few I haven't cracked yet because I think they've been weaned on vinegar when they were babies, but they look miserable, like you said before. They're looking down, they won't make eye contact, they never smile, they're looking at the ground, and they walk slow, and you must wonder what is actually going through their head. But I'm yet to see anybody that does any form of exercise who, even though no matter how painful it is while they're doing it, afterwards does not feel better.
Yeah, it's a euphoric feeling after you've exercised. Well, it certainly is for me, and I know it is for most people that exercise that I've spoken to as well.
So, I'd admit that not after every rugby game I used to play did I ever come off feeling euphoric. I would sometimes come off feeling like I was dead, battered and bruised and bleeding. But exercise in general, where you're not running into people or running into rock apes, you always feel good afterwards. So is there another step after that, or they're the five main steps?
Yeah, they're the five. And, the physiology and the psychology of excellence, that is another area to look at when you're looking at behavioral flexibility, because it's, behavior is also what you're doing with your body. How you're looking after your body, how you're looking after your mind. That's all part of behavioral flexibility. It has a direct impact on your results.
Okay, so behavioral flexibility, the amount of sleep you get each day, would that be part of your behavioral flexibility? Are you prepared to get adequate amounts of sleep and not try and burn the candle at both ends, thinking that you're invincible and you only need to have a long sleep one day a week?
Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah, because you know as well as I do, a tired person is not productive. So it's making sure getting sensory awareness around what is the best sleep pattern for you to start with, and then just adapting it. Adapting your sleep pattern. So you might go to bed at a certain time, wake up at a certain time. Yeah. Seeing how that feels, and if your energy's not increasing, so maybe you need to go to bed a little bit earlier and get up a bit earlier, or maybe you need more sleep. It's all about that. It's that constant adjustment. Yeah,
I remember reading something once, and they said when you read that you need 8 hours sleep, and they're saying that's on average. Some people actually need 10 hours. They need more sleep. It's just how they're wired. Whereas other people, 6 hours is all they really need. Yeah. But most people, it's you start going under the 6, and you're going to be depriving yourself slightly.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my international friends is a sleep expert, and he talks about the circadian rhythm of sleep. You need to find your own rhythm. So some people sleep better in 30-minute increments, some people in an hour. So if people are better with an hour, sleeping in an hour cycle, say they wake up after 7 hours sleep and they feel okay. If they press snooze and doze off again, and wake up half an hour later, then they're going to feel tired.
Okay.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Okay. Well, actually, let's just review this. So I'll run through it again. So one is know the outcome. Okay. The second part is take action.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have sensory awareness or acuity, as you like to say. Then we have behavioral flexibility.
Yeah.
Then it's physiology and psychology of excellence. So they're the 5 principles of NLP, is it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So when people are talking about NLP, it's those 5 principles that it's all based on. So when someone contacts you and says, Deb, I want to work with you as a mindset coach, these are the 5 principles you're working through with them?
This forms the basis of it, but there's a lot more that I work with them on. But yeah, this forms the basis of it. So these are the 5 success principles of NLP. I've actually got an ebook on my website that talks about this as well.
What's the name of the ebook? So I'll put a link to it so people can get hold of it.
7 steps to breakthrough to success.
Okay, that's good. I'll put a link so people can go and download that. And also just to remind people that Deb's business is called Transformational Pathways Australia. But if you want to get hold of Deb, just go to debjohnstone.com.au or just .com?
.com.au.
Okay, .com.au. And I'll have a link in all the notes. Okay, Deb, I've got a final question for you. And this is the question I ask everybody. And I know you've listened to my podcast before, so you should be prepared for this.
Okay.
It's Monday morning. You've stopped at McDonald's for a McCafe coffee, which I don't think you drink coffee, do you?
I drink decaf, and I definitely wouldn't be stopping at McDonald's. So
okay, so this makes it even more interesting then. Don't know why you're there. Okay, so you're at McDonald's, you're having a coffee. Someone walks past and said, "Hey, you're Deb Johnstone, that amazing mindset coach that I know helped Tyson keep his head screwed on. I'm about to go into work. It's Monday morning. What's the number one bit of advice you would give me as I walk into work today and I address my team at our morning team meeting? What's the one tip you would give me?"
The one tip would be at that meeting is to decide at the beginning of the meeting what you want as an outcome at the end of it.
Nice. Nice and simple.
Yeah.
is that a problem with a lot of meetings? Okay, we're just taking another topic right now. But when people go into a meeting, okay, they need to have an agenda, on what they're going to talk about, but they don't go into that meeting with having an outcome in mind, what they want to achieve.
Yeah.
So you could go through and tick all the items on the agenda and then still walk out and go, well, that was a bloody hopeless meeting because there wasn't something you were trying to achieve from it. Yeah,
that's one of the things I do personally find a bit frustrating about going to meetings when there's no outcome, there's no purpose. Why are we there? Wanting to walk out of there with some kind of outcome.
Okay, that is perfect way to actually finish this conversation today. Deb Johnstone, thank you very much for being on It's No Secret with Dr. T. And I will put all the links and everything so people can find you, because I think if they need a mindset coach, if you're good enough for me, you're good enough for everybody else in the world to get hold of you and actually have a chat to. So Deb, thank you for being on my show.
Thank you so much, Tyson. It's been a lot of fun, and thank you so much for having me on.
No, this has been cool. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Well, I'm sure you actually enjoyed listening to Deb Johnstone today. And I'd almost guarantee if you didn't know much about NLP beforehand, you know a lot more about it now and the 5 success principles involved with NLP. I know I got a lot from it, and I hope you did as well. So next week, my guest is Sam Harrop. Yes, you may recognize that name. Sam was on here a few weeks back on episode 30, and he was talking about getting stuff done. Now, Sam has a second book called Small Business, Big Exit, and he came back onto the show so we could actually talk about that, because that's one thing about small businesses is you've got to think of your exit strategy. So Sam and I sort of delve into this in a little bit more detail. Here's a little snippet of what's coming up next week.
Absolutely. The sooner people plan their exit, the better. The best time to sell a business is when you want to, not when you have to. And there are so many circumstances that are often beyond our control that put people in really difficult situations where they are forced to sell their business. Their business is not prepared, they're not prepared, and either the business doesn't sell or they get a much lower price than if they'd put in a little bit of effort earlier on, invested the time, they would have got a much, much better return.
If you're a small business owner and you've considered selling your business in the past, or you're thinking of selling it in the next, say, 3 or 5, maybe 10 years, or you even know somebody that is a small business owner and they may be heading towards retirement, or maybe they just want to change it. They just want to get out of the business. Make sure you tell them to tune in to next week's episode. It's going to be episode number 36, and it's called Small Business, Big Exit. Okay, so just 2 more things before I go. First thing, my book, It's No Secret, There's Money in Small Business, is available on all online platforms. And if you haven't got a copy, go and grab it. It is a damn good read. And the second thing, just want to remind you about my event in August 17th and 18th. Up here in Cairns, it's called Communication, Persuasion and Influence. Dave Fries is coming over from Philadelphia, and there's 8 other speakers over 2 days. I'll guarantee you are going to love this event. So go to my website, tysonfranklin.com, click on events, and just follow the details from there. And before I go, I just want to leave you with this week's quote, and it is by Wayne Dyer. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Okay, that's it for me this week. Look after yourself, look after your family, and I'll talk to you again next week. Bye for now.